Namaskar and a very warm welcome to each one of you joining us today from all across India and beyond. So let me begin with a number that, I'll be honest, stopped me completely when I first came across it. India has got a CBG production potential of 62 million metric tons per year. As per IEA India Bioenergy Report 2026, CBG potential of India is equivalent to almost 110 to 120% of India's natural gas demand in 2024. Now, today, we have close to 200 CBG plants commissioned across the country, and the sector is clearly gaining momentum. This is definitely a meaningful progress, and I say that with pride. But when you place the current production against the potential of 62 million metric tons per year, you don't see a gap, you see a frontier. And right at this frontier, at the very beginning, carbon monetization has arrived. Not as a subsidy, not as a footnote, as a structured, significant revenue stream that can be the single most important thing that makes CBG projects genuinely investable at scale. On behalf of the Indian Biogas Association, India's premium body for the bioenergy ecosystem, I extend my warmest welcome to all the participants and our esteemed panelists as well. My name is Mansha, and I've spent close to 15 years working at the intersection of environmental science and renewable energy, with bioenergy as my core specialization. And I can tell you from the inside of the sector that today's topic is not aspirational, it is urgently practical. Our theme for today: carbon monetization opportunities in the bioenergy sector, the journey ahead. Now, every word in that phrase is deliberate. Carbon monetization, real revenue, tradable assets, a potential revenue stream. Bioenergy sector, the full spectrum, biogas, CBG, biomass, and every pathway in between. The journey ahead, as let's be honest, the market is forming right now, and the developers, auditors, consultancy, technology providers in this meeting room today are the ones who will define it. Now, kindly allow me to give you three converging facts that together explain why 2026, this year, this quarter, is the most important moment for CBG carbon monetization in India's history. Fact number one: the mandatory CBG blending cycle has begun. From financial year 25-26, the CBO, compressed biogas obligation, is no longer voluntary for the relevant CGD or the city gas distribution segments. The mandated level is 1% in 25-26, rising to 3% in 26-27, 4% in 27-28, and 5% in 28-29. Now, the government has indicated that CBO could encourage investment of around 37,500 crores and support the development of 750 CBG projects by 28-29. The bioenergy sector could attract over 5,000 crore in investments in financial year 2026-27 alone. So the demand is now policy mandated. The supply needs to catch up. Fact number two: India is not just talking about carbon markets, it is building one through CCTS, or the Carbon Credit Trading Scheme. Under this framework, the Ministry of Power, through the Bureau of Energy Efficiency, has approved an initial set of methodologies, including those covering the waste to energy pathways like the CBG. Now, this creates a domestic compliance-linked pathway for the carbon credit generated from CBG, complementing existing access to international voluntary markets. Now, as the Indian carbon market moves towards operationalization, expected in phases to 26, around 25-26, somewhere around that time, CBG sits at the uniquely advantageous intersection of energy transition, waste management, and carbon finance. Fact number three: in just the first half of 2025, close to 90 to 100 million carbon credits were retired. But most importantly, the market is no longer treating all credits equally. High integrity credits are trading at 2 to 3 times the price. And right at the center of this shift is methane avoidance, the very foundation of CBG, growing at 25 to 30% annually. Now, my friends, these three facts are not coincidental. They are convergent, and they're converging right now. Now, a quick housekeeping tip. Please feel free to post your queries, your questions in the chat box, and I will curate and bring the sharpest ones to the panel. Now, for the formal welcome and the inauguration, I am privileged to introduce someone who genuinely needs no introduction as such, but it is my honor to give him one nonetheless. So Dr. Shukla, who is the president of the Indian Biogas Association and one of the most distinguished figures in India's renewable energy landscape. He superannuated as advisor Bioenergy from MNRE Government of India after nearly 3 decades of service, shaping India's bioenergy policy, planning standards, and technical development at the highest levels of government. And he's also convener and member of the Renewable Energy Committee and the BIS, Bureau of Indian Standards. Now, under his stewardship, IBA has grown into country's foremost advocate and knowledge hub for the bioenergy sector. May I request Dr. Shukla to kindly deliver the welcome address and formally inaugurate today's webinar? Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mansa, and I welcome all the guests who have joined this webinar. We are at a juncture where monetization has been very important for the biogas sector and CBG sector and the entire bioenergy sector. The financing has been a problem, and that is how, if we can monetize one or other aspect of our outputs, then it is very good for the sector. For example, if we see the cycle, the natural cycle is such that we are not adding any carbon from the CBG or the bioenergy sector. We are only recirculating the carbon as compared to the other fuels, the petroleum fuels in particular. So therefore, we are the first candidate to be considered for monetization, and monetization from the gas point of view, where we are producing the CBG, but also monetization of the carbon from the fertilizer point of view. From there also, the carbon content is going down and down in the soil world over, globally, and therefore the carbon monetization from the fertilizer aspect of it and carbon monetization from the gas part of it, both the carbon monetization are very important for this sector, because the financial requirement has been very high, very large for this sector, and the investments are not available to the extent it should have been, and that is the reason it has not grown as fast as it is expected to. The current scenario globally with the Iran-Israel-America war, US war, now the situation has become very, very critical. And it warrants that whatever local resources we have anywhere, if that is available, that is harnessed, then we should not be depending on for our critical requirement. For example, in India, the LPG has become LPG or the PNG has become a fuel all across the country, rural areas, urban areas, semi-urban areas, everywhere. So therefore, if cooking energy requirement itself can be taken care of, it becomes very critical in war-like situations where the import dependent countries, including India, are banking on the fuel supply, petroleum fuel supply to the country. And if that is disturbed, then the locally available resources are really very handy, very important, very useful. And I recollect that as early as in 2009, the first program and first letter, one of my friends have circulated recently that letter. So 2009, I have given a program, BGFP, Biogas Fertilizer Program, wherein the objective was to harness every gram of biomass waste available anywhere in the country. That was the first program, formal program for the government, which was taken up and it was launched. A lot of work has been done, and in 12th five-year plan, the regular program for the CBG or the bio-CNG has come. And in 2016, I wrote a letter to the Ministry of Petroleum saying that all the public sector companies, the Ministry of Petroleum or the oil marketing companies, they can take up 10 projects each at that point of time. And if there are 10 public sector companies, so 100 projects would have been taken in a year's time, in 2016, 17 or 18 maximum. So I mean, why I'm saying that from that point of view, from as early as 2009 and 2016, I've been harping upon it, educating about it, that let us do it, let us do it. And when the earlier war was there of Iran and US, at that time also, I said for the as a critical fuel, we should harness this. And if we are harnessing, then the monetary funds or the financing and investment becomes critical. This sector is not getting enough, and that is how it has not moved as fast as possible. So the effort which Indian Biogas Association through this webinar has been made that anywhere we can get financial support for this sector, that will be very useful. And that is how this webinar is there. We have got experts who are going to tell us about various aspects of it, how to be alert while making the projects, and while doing the auditing. The CERs and VERs are a very not a new name, the certified emission reduction and voluntary emission reduction that people were playing with. And I visited, I think 2008 or so, a project which was done for the family size biogas plant, 2 cubic meter, 3 cubic meter plant in Karnataka. So that has got the support of CRs in that and the VRs in that. Now, but when it comes to actual implementation, it is lost sight of. So therefore, the effort of Indian Biogas Association is that let us inbuilt all the consultants, all the promoters and policy makers, let them inbuilt from the very beginning, so that wherever there is opportunity, we are able to monetize the carbon, not only for the gas portion of it, but also the fertilizer portion of it, and be benefited, so that this sector moves very fast. It's urgent for the Indian scenario and also for other countries which are facing the problem of gas and petroleum fuel supply. So with this small background, which I thought I should mention to you, I request Mansa to go ahead with the agenda of the day, and the panelists which are there for today. They are going to elaborate on various aspects of it. So thanks the entire team of Indian Biogas Association, Gaurav, Geet, and everybody. I now hand over to Mansa to take it further.
Thank you so much, sir. And that framing from somebody who has spent nearly 3 decades shaping India's bioenergy policy at the highest level. So there is no more authoritative foundation for today's conversation. Thank you, sir. And further, I feel delighted to share with all of you that we are organizing the BBB Expo and Summit from 7th to 9th of May 2026 at Yashobhoomi, New Delhi. So our team would like to present a curtain raiser video for the same. So let's have a look. Non-carbon markets, the most powerful accelerant for any ecosystem is physical convening, deal making, partnerships, and technology exchange. And the most exciting such event on our horizon is something Colonel Rohit Dev is about to tell us about. Colonel Rohit Dev, affectionately known as RDX, brings a rare combination of military discipline, entrepreneurial energy, and bioenergy passion to every room he enters. After a distinguished career in the Indian Armed Forces, he has served as Chief Operating Officer in the renewable energy space and Chief Business Officer in aerospace and multi-modal logistics. He's the co-founder of Reveille Energy, a famous television personality and a social media influencer with genuine reach in a sustainability space. In short, if anyone can make this fifth BBB sound as exciting as it deserves to be, it's Colonel Rohit Dev. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mansha. Joined everybody. Respected Dr. Shukla ji, energy enthusiasts who have joined us from India and across the globe as well. Thank you for this opportunity. I will take very little time because it's also important, as Mansha ji said. So, Triple B Summit was running for nearly 3 years. And then we had a step up with the blessings of Dr. Shukla and Gaurav ji coming in. So it's now Indian Biogas Association led event where Reveille Energy is a strategic support partner, and the event is curated very well and executed in the best possible way in this country by Indus Symposium led by Mr. Sharadji. So I think as a team, we bring to table three facets. The first facet is organizing an event, which is Indus. The second is the entire, sort of heart of this entire mechanism, which brings together a lot of stakeholders to the table, gets it done, is the Indian Biogas Association. And I play my small part in ensuring it happens the way we are conceiving and on time. So just to give you a perspective, the last summit was held in Delhi in a hotel complex, and we felt the need that there were too many people who wanted to showcase their ware, their technology, their company, their research and development potential, whether they were in TRL, 3 stage, 5 stage, 8 stage. And then we thought that it's better to shape this event at a bigger stage and a platform. So the fifth summit is going to happen, like Manshaji said, from 7th to 9th of May. This will be a constant event held on preferably the first Thursday, Friday, Saturday of May. It may undergo a change for the next 2 seasons, primarily because there is a big partner of energy with India called Russia, and Russia has got Victory Day celebration on the exact same days. So we'll have to twist that for the next year. But just to say that the last summit had one unique USP, which you would have, you can Google, you can visit the website, see the directories of various events happening globally. That event had no absentees. The people, the ministers, the secretary, the industry, captains who said that they will be there for that event, including ambassadors, not from one, but more than 3 countries, support of various global councils. Everybody was there, except one minister of state who could not be there because, unfortunately, the day he was supposed to travel for a voluntary function, he had a unfortunate death in his family, direct family. So I think that is the USP and the strength which Triple B brings to table in an attempt to curate a consortium and sort of a bhagidari model in which all stakeholders, right from farmers to financial, wisdom of the globe, to technology players, to process industry, to anybody else who's involved, to come on a common platform. So keeping the enthusiasm of the last summit, we have created this event in May. And this is a little beyond the Triple B emblem which we carry, which is bioenergy, biofuels, and biomaterial. So necessarily we will have 14 prominent sessions. Some of them will transcend into other renewables as well, in terms of solar, hydel as well, because that is a conversation where we get connected. There are hybrid models of energy. There is thermal power consumption by the NTPC and others, which connects the bioenergy world to various thermal and non-thermal applications. And we will also introduce a small component beyond the waste to energy segment, which will be wind energy as well, and also a little bit of nuclear, because the government agencies and the departments want that conversation between India and the global players to happen. That is the entire bouquet, which will also have nearly 8 to 11 round tables. I'll just give you a flavor. The first round table, which will be of a very global magnitude, will be something like a international renewable energy dialogue, with not only participation of the hierarchy of the Indian leadership in energy sector, but also friendly foreign countries, about 10, 12 of them, and few select global, that means Indian as well, captains of industry who will drive that. Second, we will have an important energy transition roundtable, where all these aspects of renewable energy plus more will be discussed from Indian perspective, with more captains of the industry involved thereafter. And then similarly, we will have one roundtable on compressed biogas. We'll have on technology and other aspects, future fuels to include marine fuels. The bioenergy segment will have everything from aggregation of biomass to the boilers, which is the boiler segment. And typically we will have this going for other aspects of our business of biomass, but also have one closed roundtable. And today I was lucky, Dr. Shukla, I've been able to bridge the gap between the Russian and the non-Russian entities. Few of them have agreed for this event to come closer for at least the nuclear part in a closed door effort, which we'll manage through the PMO's office and others as well. So a nice making. We currently have 7 ambassadors who have confirmed as on today, and 4 more are in the offing as friendly countries who will join us for this. We have the support of various global councils. World Bioenergy Association is already with us, where Gaurav is also a board member, and we also have USIBC and others who have evinced a lot of interest. That besides, I think the central point of this event will be the exhibition part, where we are curating these pavilions. So at the front end will be the upstream pavilion called the Harvest Pavilion. We are naming it. So any OEM, that is original equipment manufacturer, or their top line vendors could be part of this pavilion, where we showcase aggregation post-harvest equipment. Similarly, there's a boiler pavilion. There's a separate CBG pavilion because there's the impetus of the government of India, courtesy to veterans like Dr. Shukla, who have been pushing this industry. It's going to happen, including the fertilizer segment as well. We're trying to dovetail to the agriculture ministry. We also have a future biofuel pavilion where SAF is going to play a prominent role, and a little bit of bio-LNG this year. And then we have pavilions for the renewables with solar, hydel, thermal, geothermal, and offshore wind coming in. Nuclear will be a very small component, with the World Nuclear Association stepping up, and some companies from Russia, and including countries like Brazil, as I spoke today to the ambassador, they'll be there to showcase their wares. So I think it's a very healthy mix. What you get from Triple B is very different USP from what you get from events. 99.99999% of the global events are welcome and thank you kind of events. So they will welcome you and they'll say thank you as well at the end of it, and everybody's happy with that. What Triple B gets for at least the premier clients and premier associations and the government and the other departments, even global partners and friends, is that we continue our voyage for the entire year around. So any third party advocacy, any requirement of showcasing what you are doing over the year, if you want to have podcast, authorized like today's podcast or a webinar through us, we'll be able to go the full spectrum to ensure that your growth story is shaped. Your voice is heard by the concerned ministries, departments, global agencies, and other governments as well. And as I speak, we are in the process today as Triple B. We'll not announce it today. We'll announce it during our press conference, probably in April. We are tying up with a bigger media agency as well of India, where we are creating an energy entity of Triple B. This Triple B entity will drive everything in the media globally, strike conversations with friendly foreign countries, interact with the government of India and state governments. And like this year, we have prompted 6 states to come to the table, including the state of Telangana, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, UP, and others. And you will have a lot of participation of the state governments where you can interact directly as well. Do you have any suggestions around this? Which state you are looking at more? And if we have not included them this year, we'll be happy to include a conversation during this Triple B Summit as well. We also have an enthusiastic startup pavilion, and where I'm making an open offer as one of the custodians of this event, that we will let you come on center stage as a startup at nearly at cost basis of what we are giving to the venue to pay, because it's Yashobhumi, it's a premium convention center. But this event is going to become a global event, and we're going to showcase in a way that one entity of the government keeps hand holding this event from the year 2027 onwards. So that's our aspiration, to make it a global bioenergy event happening. And we will do anything to stitch whatever partnerships are required, given our collective strength. And I can only exhort each one of you, please be there. Please be there as visitors if you want to. Please be there as delegates to get more out of this event as well. And even if you are a startup, small startup, please, at the back end, negotiate with my team and our team to make sure that you have the stage to at least tell what the story you have. And if you're a bigger company, please support, because beyond the normal wares of a conference, we try to get the visible entities like the youth of the country, the military forces, the other PSU elements of the government of India, like the railways and the steel sector, shipping sector, who actually want to be here, but they don't have the access. So we accord that access from our side as a benevolent gesture. It's basically philanthropic, but we will seek support of bigger players in the biogas spectrum or the bioenergy spectrum who can support us with, at least enabling us to host it a little better in terms of even it be a little bit of sponsorship as well. So I'm not exhorting you to give me money, but I'm telling you that it's a growing Indian story where you should be able to contribute because you have seen the geopolitical, part. Those of you who, I will not say waste your time on television, but see people like us talking there about the energy sector, right from the Indian, channels to the foreign channels, I have emphasized that we have a long way to go in our transition. And while it is not accurately mapped, but endeavors of Indian Biogas Association and platforms like Triple B will enable that to happen. So while we have a lot of access to people concerned to make the difference, but we surely need the integral support of citizens, of the industry, of the academia to take this story forward. So thank you for your time. I have to get into another meeting in the next 5 minutes. I will not take more of your time, but thank you for this platform and to understand what Triple B is. And you can await our press conference in the second week. We are planning our first week of April, and that should set the ball rolling for each one of you. And feel free to connect with our team. Manisha, at the end, somebody can put in the contact details of both sides of Indus and IBA, where people can connect to learn more about this event. And there's also, I think, a website where you can go. And happy to engage anybody who needs more inputs. Feel free to call anybody, including me, and we'll be available to answer your queries to shape the energy transition of Bharat in the way we want. So thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much.
Colonel Rohit Dev, thank you, sir. And I have to say that curtain raiser has me personally very excited. The fifth BBB sounds like a marquee event of 2026 for the sector. And I know I'm not the only one here, who's clearing up my calendar. So with that, let us dive straight into our panel. Our first speaker today will take us through the financial architecture of carbon monetization in bioenergy, the consultant's perspective, the frameworks, the real-world mechanics. So, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to introduce Mr. Nagaraju Bellapu, who brings a powerful multi-dimensional perspective to carbon markets, having worked across CDM analysis at TUV Rhineland Renewable Energy Project Leadership, carbon consulting, culminating in his current role as Director of Carbon Project Execution at Kosher Climate India Private Limited, one of India's leading carbon advisory firms operating across carbon advisory, offsetting, nature-based solutions, and sustainability. Mr. Nagaraj will speak from the consultant's perspective, sharing ground-level insights on baseline additionality requirements for CBG projects, the feedstock that maximizes carbon revenue, and the real challenges developers face by navigating carbon project cycles, alongside practical strategies to overcome them. Mr. Nagaraju, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mansa. First of all, respected Dr. Shukla ji and Kalna Rohit Dev, and pleasure meeting you in this platform. And good afternoon to my other co-panelists and all the participants and guests joined here. My special thanks to Indian Biogas Association and Mansha and the team for giving me this opportunity to talk about the current potential and demand and need of the hour of monetization of the carbon credit benefits to the biogas sector in India and coordinating this event. So I'm going to talk about briefly and quickly on the 3 or 4 points from the consulting perspective, including the current carbon market landscape, including voluntary and international compliance market, and what is the value proposition of CBG projects, and what is the positioning of the CBG credits out of all the sectors, and what is the key eligibilities, and what is the prior consideration we need to consider to get our projects eligible, and a brief about the latest market trends and what is the price expectations, current prices that CBG credits from the CBG sector can expect, which will obviously increases the financial viability or of the projects. Yeah, so I'm representing Kosher Climate. I'm the director technical and look after all the project executions of the carbon projects from NBS, non-NBS, technological, non-technological sectors, India and across the globe. Yeah, next slide, please. So this is a brief about Kosher Climate. We are the carbon and environmental advisory company, advocating the clients from the carbon credit perspectives. Also the renewable energy clients from the environmental social impact assessment, which is the most of the requirements from the lenders, and ESG reporting services for the corporate clients. We provide end-to-end services from the carbon credit registration to monetization of the credits. And so far, we have almost delivered 350 plus projects successfully registered across 10 countries. And trading, we achieved almost 20 million plus credits till date from all the sectors. Next. So this is the brief about the current carbon markets overview. So carbon markets are currently, divided into one is the compliance market, second is the voluntary market. In the compliance market, the name itself says that the credits out of it, the projects is regulated by some of the regulations of the host countries and followed by some of the rules to trade it in the compliance market. So current compliance market is, there are three compliance market we can see. One is that the compliance credits required to adjust the NDCs of the countries from the developing and developed nations both, as well as the Kosher, which is the one almost considered as another compliance market where the airlines has to meet their targets set under these Kosher guidelines. And also some partially the CBAM is also now slowly becoming the compliance where all the products being exported to Europe. They also need to meet certain offset guidelines to export these products to meet the CBAM guidelines, where the specific energy consumption needs to be lowered under the SEC targets set by these European countries. So this is the compliance market 3, and voluntary market, as the name itself is that the projects can be developed under the voluntary registries like Vera, Gold Standard, any other registries where the credits can be sold without any regulatory tag to the credits. So it's a free hand. One can develop the projects and one can purchase the credits from the voluntary carbon markets. So in the compliance market, right now, the compliance market sees the prime mover is the Paris Agreement, which is the set the rules on the climate change mitigation or to set the temperature below 1.5 degrees centigrade, which if it's not possible now, we are all talking about the 2 degrees centigrades in the futures. So the Paris Agreement 2 clauses talks about the carbon credit trading between the two countries. One is the Article 6.2, another is the Article 6.4. The 6.2 is completely bilateral, where the two countries negotiate between the tradable credits, what kind of projects can be allowed by from the country and from the receiving country, and what kind of registries that going to be allowed, whether it is the only domestic carbon market, domestic registry, or any voluntary registry like Vera and Gold Standard, or only the buying country registry. So here the Article 6.2 guidance, two countries will negotiate, sign a cooperative agreement defining all the eligibility criteria, what projects can be allowed. So under the 6.4, it is completely driven by the UNFCCC, which is the UN body regulates the projects. Earlier, there was a CDM mechanism under the Kyoto Protocol, where we used to submit the projects only under the compliance mechanism. But whereas now, since there is a divided into 6.2 and 6.4. 6.4 is the completely, though it is regulated by UNFCCC, we consider it as a voluntary market mechanism. Why? Because the 6.4 credits, unless until there is a cooperative agreement between the two countries. 6.4 credits cannot be the compliance, it can become the voluntary. Once we have a cooperative agreement between the two countries, even 6.4 credits also become the compliance credit. Only the tag attached here compared to the other voluntary registries, Vera, Gold Standard, 6.4 is governed by the UNFCCC, where this brings some transparency, integrity while transacting the credits. Next slide. So CBG projects, what is the significance and what is the value proposition among all the carbon credit projects that is currently registering? So the three categories integrating together, there is a special proposition of the CBG projects in the sector. That is the one is, of course, the methane avoidance. The feedstock, what we are using predominantly the manure, livestock manure or municipal solid waste or food processing waste, other than the dry biomass, is obviously the baseline is they are left to the open lagoons or decay or any solid waste, municipal solid waste sites. So that will, in the absence of the project, the methane will be emitted into the atmosphere. So by doing the CBG projects, one is the first advantage is the methane avoidance by capturing the methane to the generation of biogas. Second is what is the energy, whether it's thermal or electricity energy being generated will definitely displace any fossil fuel which is being utilized in the absence of this biogas. That is the second advantage. Third advantage is the co-benefit, which is the integration of waste management, renewable energy generation, and as a byproduct, there is an organic fertilizer which replaces the synthetic nitrogen fertilizer. These are one triple value proposition very few projects have. One is the among that is a CBG, methane avoidance, renewable energy generation, as well as the biofertilizer. By applying the fields or farming fields, the SOC content will be increased, as well as reducing the nitrous oxide reductions from the reduction of synthetic fertilizers. Next. So as I said, alignment Article 6.2 is the now current primer. How the CBG projects are aligned with the Article 6.2. So under this 6.2 is, as I said, this is a new frontier up to the 2030 under the Paris Agreement, where all countries across the globe all bound to follow this, either the offsetting the projects or to mitigate their emission reductions by purchasing the credits. So the under Article 6.2 currently, as I mentioned in my previous slide, there is a two countries has to come to the negotiation and sign a cooperative agreement to trade the credits among these two nations. Under this agreement, as a first step, India has already signed this cooperative agreement with the Japan under this Paris Agreement, where the credits can be sold as a internationally tradable mitigation options. We call it as a ITMOS instead of carbon credits as an official language. So Japan, India has already signed in Japan in the last December 2025, where now we are already having a one privilege on one destined buyer. If we can generate the credits under this Article 6.0, you can immediately monetize and get the financial benefit for your projects. So under this JSN mechanism, what is the benefit? Under the positive lift of 16, I think around 15 or 16 projects, India has already allowed under the Article 6.2. Fortunately, CBG is one of those, all the 16 sectors where the government of India will allow and where Japan has agreed to purchase the credits as an ITMOS under the 6.2 mechanism. What is the benefit, immediate benefit, if we can take the leverage of this JSM mechanism? Only as I said, right, under the agreement, cooperative agreement, they will define the registries where we can register the project. So under the JCM in the India and Japan agreement, only they have allowed the joint crediting mechanism, which is the domestic mechanism of the Japan. We need to submit the project only under the JCM to be eligible under the tradable option with the Japan. So the immediate benefit is Japan provides under this cooperative agreement either three approaches. One is either support in terms of knowledge building or capacity building, or else capital subsidy for the technology, advanced technologies, or else forward offtake agreements where the future credits will be purchased by signing into the agreement right now, which is the trade-off. So these credits will be adjusted to the Japan NDCs, which has been committed under the Paris Agreement Climate Pact. So how this Article 6.2 bilateral transfer will occur? Suppose we have a project, what we need to do? So first, we have to first apply our project under the Article 6.2 DNA. Right now, the India is yet to define the designational national authority who approves, issues the letter of authorization for the under Article 6.2 eligibility. So since the DNA is not yet formed, hope the Minister of Environment Forest will soon appoint the DNA where the CBG projects can immediately apply for the letter of authorization. Once the government of India issues a letter of authorization, then we can register the project under the JCM, submit the project under the JCM. There is a joint committee, JCM in India. They'll review this project under the eligibility criteria and after the completing the validation from the JCM auditor, secretaries, both the countries will together accept the project. Yes, this project is registered under the JCM mechanism. Then what will happen? Japan government also will give the letter of authorization, where two countries giving the letter of authorization certifies that this project is now Article 6.2 eligible project under the Paris Agreement. Then once the two letter of authorizations are there, then you can immediately identify the buyer who can purchase your credits later stages or in the early stages also. Once your project is listed under JCM mechanism, the buyers from the Japanese counterparts can approach you. We are interested to purchase your credits like that. Then you can have a forward agreement or you can later sell the credits. But to selling the credits, there is one more requirement, is a corresponding adjustment letter that Government of India has to give, where these credits before issuing are not being adjusted under the NDC of the Government of India, which we are reporting to the UNFCCC on biannual frequency. So once this corresponding adjustment letter is issued, so these credits are fully aligned under the Article 6.2 and eligible to trade to the Japan government. Japan government will purchase this credit and adjust their NDC commitment in their carbon registry. So once the credits are traded, Indian carbon registry, which they will adjust these credits under their NDC. They won't adjust it, whereas Japan will adjust under their NDC commitment. This is how the bilateral transfer of ITMOs will work. Next. So what is to claim the carbon credits under the CBG? What is the sources of carbon credits? These are the three which I explained earlier. One is the methane avoidance in the baseline. So by capturing the methane, what is the credits being avoided? We can claim the credits from the methane. Second is the fuel switching. Here there is a multiple options. What is the end use of your CBG? Whether it is replacing the LPG or whether it is replacing the LDO in the industrial boiler or pole, or it is replacing the conventional natural gas in the vehicles. So from that, you have another source of credits from the CBG plants. Finally, it may or may not be mandatory application for all the CBG projects, but yes, on the at the scale, if by combining all the CBG projects, the byproduct, this organic manure, if we can apply to the farming fields, this would be one more the premium regenerative agriculture projects, which has the prime demand in the current market, the carbon removal credits. So these primarily these are the three carbon credit sources which we can identify or eligible to get the credits from the CBG projects. And these are the applicable standards and methodologies. First, if you look at the left side, these are the registries are accepting the projects of CBG projects. In the first Article 6.4 PSCM, we call it as a Paris Agreement creating mechanism. You can submit these projects in the PSCM. On the JCM under the Article 6.2, and in the voluntary registry, if we can see Gold Standard and Vera, as well as International Carbon Registries, GCC or Set Carbono. All the registries, there is no registries which are excluded. The CBG projects eligible for registration. Almost all registries in the carbon ecosystem, they are accepting the CBG projects. And these are the methodologies or we can apply from these different registries. Right now, whatever I shown, these are the methodologies from the CDM registries. AMS 1C, thermal energy production with or without electricity. Suppose if the generated biogas, if you are utilizing for the cooking purposes, so you can apply this methodology. AMS 3D is the methane recovery in animal manure system. If you are using the livestock manure to generate the biogas, then this methodology is relevant to register your project. AMS 3AQ, methane recovery through controlled anaerobic digestion. Here also the methane avoidance only, the difference between 3D and AO is the 3D, it is only applicable for the feedstock is the manure. If there is any other like press mud or biomass or MSW, you have to use the 3AO methodology. Finally, 3AQ is the end use application. If the generated biogas, if you are also replacing the CNG as a CNG, then 3AQ you can use. So it is a combination. 3D plus 1C you have to use, or 3D plus 3AQ, or 3AO plus 3AQ. By combining these two methodologies, you can claim the credits from methane avoidance as well as the fossil fuel displacement. Next. These are the combination of feedstock what we are now frequently observing in the industry. And indicative emission reduction potentials. For example, like first one, kettle dung feedstock is the livestock manure, where the CBG is used as a vehicle fuel. then you are getting the optimum credits, which is the high methane avoidance at higher level and CNG replacement, around 45,000 to 50,000 tons of CO2 or credits for 10 TPD plant. Followed by, in case of cow dung, if you are using the press mud and the combination of any napier grass of agriculture residue, your credits are slightly later. These are medium potential, where you will get 30 to 35,000 for a 10 TPD plant. And if in case the food waste, generating biogas from food waste and using for no any LDO replacement in the industrial boilers or LPG in the boilers, it is also category of medium, where you will get 25 to 30,000 credits because of less methane content here, medium methane content here. Then finally, sewage sludge as coordination may not be applicable today, as we are talking about the complete CBG projects. Here also the potential is very high. Why? Because of your feedstock as a wastewater treatment, and if you are replacing as a coal-based heat, thermal energy, then also again you are getting 35,000 to 40,000 tons of CO2, which is the credits per annum for 10 TPD plant. So this is a typical carbon project cycle, where the step one, once your project is there, you have to choose the program, which registry we have to go ahead, whether it is Vera, Gold Standard, or Article 6.2. If there is a 6.2 mechanism in place with a counterpart country, then we'll submit a project over there. Then writing a PDD and listing the project in the registry. Then step three is the validation and registration, where we need to appoint an independent validation body, where they will validate and audit our project in line with these registry guidelines and give the compliance report, a positive or negative opinion. Based on the positive opinion, our project will be submitted to the registries. Then registry will have their own technical evaluation and approve the project so that the project is registered. Once our project is registered, then the next step is that we need to monitor and report our generation, where in the either annual basis or 6 months basis. Or annual basis, once we have our consolidated generation, what we do, we'll prepare a monitoring report as per our monitoring plan defined in the our PDD, whether we use the flow meters or any log books for the feedstock. So with all these sources, we'll submit a monitoring report to again the independent auditor before submitting the final registries. Auditor again verify whether all our credits are measured as per the monitoring plan that we defined in the PDD, whether the credits are really avoided or reduced from your baseline, whether the quantity of feedstock, what we are saying is that whether the records are there, evidences are there. So auditors will independently verify on behalf of us, and they will submit the final reports to the registries again. So based on this report, registries will issue the equivalent of carbon credits to our account. Then followed by that, we can sell or monetize or transfer the credits and take the financial benefit back to the project account. So this is a typical project cycle. The timeline, if you see, for the registration, it will take 6 to 8 months. Then followed by, it will take 6 months for the issuance of credits. Then maybe 3 to 4 months to if you have immediate buyer, you can immediately trade the credits and monetize it. Or else it will take little 2 to 3 months putting up to the public carbon marketplaces, all in the trade exchanges to make our project visible. Then you can negotiate and sell the credits. So what are the critical factors that we should consider before taking our project to carbon registries? Because any project developer, we feel that as per the previous thread, okay, I'm avoiding the methane, and as well as I'm generating the biogas and consuming it and displacing the fossil fuel. So this is a real action. We believe that yes, I'm eligible to get the credits, but there is some specific eligibility criteria where the registries will define, so that the credits are not double accounted by any other parties in the ecosystems, or the baseline credible baseline is there, or the projects are additional. The project developer are able to monitor these impact in the long-term basis, where he has a control or not. So all these factors we need to consider as a pre-feasibility study or feasibility assessment before taking our project to the any kind of registry. In that particular to CBG, previous slide. In that particular to the CBG projects, one is the baseline practice. So whatever the feedstock we are using, what is the pre-baseline scenario? What is the use case scenario for this? manure or feedstock what you are using for the biogas projects. For example, if you are taking any the animal manure to generate the biogas, if that animal manure is already being used for the composting purposes, that means you are already displacing one of the avoidance criteria to generate the biogas. In that case, your baseline is not the real baseline or not eligible to claim the credits as a CBG credits. Why? Because this is a displacement of existing avoidance activity. So we should not displace the any useful application of the manure or biomass or something. We should always use from the surplus quantity available in the market. So for that, maybe before putting up the plant, you need to have a study of the surplus biomass study, whatever the feedstock we are using it. Then is the double accounting avoidance. This is the very critical condition. Every registry is taking from the 6.2 to any voluntary registry. No two no beneficiaries or no two project proponents in the supply chain should not claim the credits. Example CBG, the manufacturer is claiming at the same time wherever you are selling the CBG to the oil companies or gas filling stations. If they also claim the credits, so it is a double accounting. Either only one product, one proponent should claim the carbon credits. For that, from the end-to-end ecosystem or supply chain, you should have double declaration from the end user or your counterpart who is purchasing the biogas, so that they will not claim the any carbon credits from the generation of this biogas or the quantity selling to the counterpart. So this contractual term, we found that it is missing in the sale agreements or power purchase agreement. So this is a one condition every CBG manufacturer should consider in their contractual agreement with the end users. Third is the supply chain, where the manufacturer who is submitting the project for the carbon credit registration should have a supervision and control over the biogas being from the manufacturing supplier point of to the end use, so that at any verification cycle you can able to demonstrate that yes, my CBG is displacing the LPG, my CBG is displacing the this vehicle fuel, etc. So you can able to demonstrate at any point, so that you should have that control from the end to end of the CBG production to the supply end use. And next, what is the strategic benefits of taking our projects? As Shuklaji and Manasha already set the context. What is the need of the hour is to improve the financial viability, because these are upcoming technology. As we already know the CBG projects some decades. So right now there is only 200 projects in the financial year 24-25, where the potential is up to 1,000 or 2,000 biogas plants. So what is the gap is definitely one is the financial gap, capex support, where the government is, if India is already doing it, but why don't we take a leverage the carbon credit benefit? So definitely the additional revenue by registering these projects, additional revenue from the selling of the carbon credits, which definitely improves your IRR, all the payback period, and access to clean carbon finance, as I said, from the Japan under the JCM. Circular economy from the using this byproduct to the chemical fertilizer reduction. Next slide. And these are the trade-offs where the important where we can sell our credits, corporate voluntary buyers and the net zero commitments, which is become the now compliance under the CCTS market. And as I mentioned, Kosher and Article 6.2, immediate buyer is the companies from the Japan and hard to abate sectors in the CCTS. Next slide. And these are likely buyer segment as the previous slide, corporates and global tech companies, oil and natural gas companies who has the mandate to purchase the oil or offset, and Article 6.2 partners from the NDC country, partner countries. Right now it is a Japan for us. Next slide. And position of CBG credits, as I mentioned, this has a strong SDG benefits, and main important parameter is it is already considered as Article 6.2. One agreement is already in place. So this is a one major advantage where we can already, immediately start thinking of developing our projects under the carbon credit registries. Next. And these are market trends. If you look at Indian carbon credit market at 41% CAGR, it may reach to up to 2032. For CBG, with the current trade-offs, if you can convert the credit prices, we may be expecting at $5 to $8 prices, at 5 to 8 credits per ton of CBG. may have 10 to 12 rupees per kg additional benefit to your sale price of CBG, which will roughly to 35 to 70 lakhs for 5 TPD plant. Next to drivers of price, as I said, CBG is already covered in the Article 6.2 and mandatory CBG compliance increasing from 1% to 5%. Next, price range from $5 to $15 per tons of CO2. If more countries are signing like a Japan, we may expect $15 to $25 per credit in future. Next. So these are monetization journey, feasibility study to the trading, which I already covered. Next. Yeah, thank you.
So, Mr. Nagaraj, that was an exceptionally rich ground level perspective. So thank you so much for that. And you have just mapped the entire architecture of CBG carbon monetization in a way that our audience can take from the screen directly into their boardrooms and apply. And I want to amplify one point that came up earlier regarding additionality. I know that this would sometimes create anxiety, a little bit of anxiety for developers. Will my project qualify? So let me address that directly. In the Indian context today, many CBG projects present a strong and defensible case for additionality, particularly when project economics are evaluated on standalone revenues. Now, that is not a weakness of the project. That is precisely where carbon finance becomes relevant. Across major carbon frameworks such as the International Carbon Registry, and we also have Mr. Guðmundur today, who has joined on behalf of ICR with us, and other standards like GS and all, and now the emerging Indian carbon markets as well. So additionality is typically assessed through a combination of investment analysis, barrier analysis, and market conditions as well. In simple terms, the question is, would this project be as financially viable without carbon revenues? And in many cases, within the CBG sector, the answer is not quite. And that is exactly what makes carbon revenues meaningful. It is not a bonus. It is not an add-on. It is often the factor that helps move a project from technically viable to financially bankable. And when you layer even modest carbon revenues over the life of the project across thousands of tons of emissions avoided each year, the cumulative impact on returns can be significant. So rather than asking, will my project qualify? Perhaps the better question is, am I fully capturing the value my project is already creating? And now, the moment you decide to enter the carbon project cycle, the next critical question is, how does verification and auditing work in practice? Because the airtight baseline and strongest additionality argument in the world is worth nothing if it doesn't survive a rigorous verified scrutiny. And that is precisely what Mr. Anand of Carbon Check India is going to unpack for us. And given his credentials, there is quite literally no one better place to do so. So ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker leads an organization that has just achieved something no other body in the world has ever done. Carbon Check India becomes the first DOE, the designated operational entity globally, to receive accreditation under Article 6.4 of the Paris Agreement crediting mechanism in February 2025. Under Mr. Anand's leadership, Carbon Check has audited more than 1,500 climate and sustainability projects. Ladies and gentlemen, I repeat, 1,500 climate and sustainability projects across 50 plus countries and 6 continents, spanning the International Carbon Registry, CDM Gold Standard, BCS, and now Article 6.4 as well. He speaks today from the auditor's chair, and what he tells you about what verifiers look for, where projects fail, and how to build an airtight monitoring plan will be the most practically valuable 15 minutes of free due diligence that your project ever receives. So over to you, Mr. Amit.
Welcome.
Hello. Yeah. Thank you, Mancha. First of all, very good afternoon to Dr. Shukla and my other co-panelists, and all the attendees who have joined this webinar from all across the world. And special thanks to Mancha and the IBA team for providing me with this opportunity to share a verifier's or a validator's perspective in this CBG sector. Probably validators and verifiers' perspective do not differ from sector to sector. So I would be like, it would be more like a validators and verifiers' perspective for carbon offset projects. So yeah, we could start. So the topic that I have been assigned to speak on is carbon credits audit decoded, what every CBG plant developer must know. Next slide. So I have divided my presentation into 7 topics. That is introduction, carbon project cycle, types of audits, audit processes, distinction between type of audits, benefit of audits, and audits focus areas. Next slide. So carbon credit plays a pivotal role in global climate action, enabling companies and individuals to offset their GHG emissions by supporting projects that reduce or remove carbon from atmosphere. Audits for such projects are essential to ensure integrity, transparency, traceability, credibility of the carbon credits that are generated by such projects. These independent assessments are carried out by accredited validation verification bodies, which are approved by the GHG programs and who possess the required technical know-how. And these independent assessments prevent greenwashing by confirming that emission reductions are real, transparent, and measurable, and additional as well. Next slide. So my friend and colleague Nagaraju had already explained to you how the project cycle works. So I would be basically focusing on 2 steps, that is validation and verification, which are 2 very integral steps of carbon project cycle. Next slide, please. So in the entire journey of a carbon project cycle, there are 2 types of audit that a project must undergo. And one of the first types of audit is a validation audit, which ensures project credibility. Validation is a review to assess if the project's design and the plan comply with the requirement of the GHG programs, applied methodology, and whether the project is fit to be registered as a carbon credit project or not. It involves an independent assessment of project designs, application of methodology to confirm that it meets the criteria for generating carbon credits. It's a one-time activity which can happen at before the start of the project or also during the course of implementation of the project. Once the validation has been successfully concluded, the project proponent must submit the project for registration with the respective program. Next slide. So this is basically a flowchart of validation audit process. There are 3 different stages of validation audit. One is planning, one is execution and completion, and one is independent review and approval. So a validation process typically starts with a project developer or a project consultant signing a contract with the validation verification body and appointing them as an auditor for their project. Then the next step is that there is a kickoff call between both the parties to discuss on the details of the project, finalize site visit arrangements. Then initial documents are requested from the project developer. Then once we receive the initial documents, we do a risk assessment and a planning. And we prepare a validation verification plan. Validation verification plan is a very comprehensive document which gives you a complete itinerary of the activities that will be carried on the ground, along with the areas of discussion, focus areas of discussion, what would be assessed, how it would be assessed, including interview with relevant stakeholders. This on-site assessment is also an activity where evidence gathering, information gathering is done. During at the end of the on-site assessment, we share what we call as a draft validation report, which is a document which contains our findings or non-conformities based on both document review as well as the site visit. And once this draft validation report is submitted to the client, then the client is expected to reply to those non-conformities or the validation findings, revise documents, provide supporting evidences to justify their responses, Once we receive the responses, those responses are reviewed. If they are found satisfactory, then the findings are closed and final report preparation is undertaken. Once the final report is prepared, then it goes through an independent review within the validation verification body. The independent review is carried out by people who are not a part of the initial validation verification team. This independent review ensures that no critical issues are overlooked. The project fulfills all the requirement of the methodology, the standard. And once the project passes this internal review and technical review process, then the project is submitted to the respective GHG program for requesting registration. So this in a nutshell is a validation audit process. Typically for a CBG project or a project of industrial project or energy project, the validation timeline is of close to 12 to 14 weeks. But it also depends upon the preparedness of the client, the quality of documentation, how well and how quickly you are able to resolve the queries, provide the requested documents, and also provide supporting evidences and make necessary revisions in the document. So these are all factors which impact or which affect the timelines of the validation audit process. Next slide. After validation, the project goes for registration. Once the project is registered, as you saw in the earlier presentation by Nagaraju, that once the project is registered, then a monitoring activity is undertaken in which your consultant prepares the monitoring report in accordance with the registered PDD. After the monitoring report is prepared, then it is submitted for a verification audit to a validation verification body. Verification audit is defined as an audit which confirms real impact. I also like to call it a sort of a performance assessment of the project. So this audit takes place after project implementation and registration to check actual implementation and operation of the project, monitor data to confirm that emission reductions have occurred as planned. So this audit generally focuses on implementation of your project, whether your project has been implemented as it was proposed in your project design document, whether the data and parameters have been monitored as they were mentioned in the project design document, and in accordance with whatever monitoring procedures you have proposed in those project design documents. We have monitored your monitoring parameters, following those set procedures, set monitoring frequency, calibration requirements, whatever you have proposed during the time of registration. The project should be implemented and the monitoring activity should be carried out on the ground verbatim. This audit also confirms that outcomes set out in the project documentation have been achieved and quantified according to the requirements of the respective standard. It's a periodic activity. It is generally it is done on an annual basis, but it can also be done on biennial basis. And it can also be done on as desired frequencies by the project proponent, because to an extent, the frequency of verification audits would depend upon a lot of other factors, which may include the demand of such credits, the monetization of such credits, the revenue that you generate from sale of such credits, because these verification audits and verification audits do have a cost associated with it. So, so the desired frequency of these audits can vary, but in general, the projects are audited annually, the projects are verified annually. Once the verification is concluded and we have submitted our report to the GHG program, and they have done their technical due diligence and they accept the report, then carbon credits can be issued, which could be later on monetized in the market. Next slide, please. So verification audit process is very, very similar to what I have already detailed in the validation audit process. It also has 3 steps of planning, execution, and completion, independent review and approval. So it also has exactly the same steps. So we start with signing of the countersign agreement, kickoff call, finalizing the site visit details, requesting initial documentation, monitoring report, ER calculation sheet, and other supporting documents such as monitoring records of monitoring equipments, measurement equipments, your QA/QC procedure, calibration records. Once we have these documents, we do a desk review. We also do a risk assessment. Based on risk assessment, we prepare our verification site visit plan, which is also very similar to the validation plan. It gives you a very detailed itinerary of all the activities that would be carried out on site. Evidences would be gathered, photographs would be taken of the monitoring equipments, interviews would be conducted. After carrying out these activities, we prepare a draft verification report, which is provided to the client or their consultants to reply to the open findings that have been raised during the course of audit. Once we receive the responses along with revised documents and some requested supporting evidences, we process with the assessment. If the findings are closed, we move to preparation of final verification report. Then again, the final verification report, it undergoes an independent technical review, where a technical expert and a technical reviewer who has not been a part of the verification team does a third eye review of the entire documents to ensure that all the requirements have been addressed. And once the technical review is successfully completed, the report is submitted to the GHG program requesting issuance of the credit. After due diligence and technical evaluation by the GHG program, if the report is accepted, then the carbon credits are issued, which could be later on monetized in the market. So it also follows, it also has 3 phases of planning, execution, and completion and independent review. For a typical energy project, CBG project, the verification timeline the generic verification timeline is of 8 weeks. That is exactly 2 months, 6 to 8 weeks. So if everything is in order, then we expect to complete the entire verification activity between 6 to 8 months. And as I said earlier, the timeline is significantly dependent on also the productive participation of the client and the consultants, the quality of documentation, the quality of record keeping. So if you have a CBG project, feedstock purchase receipt of feedstocks, calibration records of measurement equipments, QA/QC procedure, all these records, if they are handy, if they're kept, if they're archived in a proper manner, then process may move smoothly. If not, then the process may be and become a slightly lengthier. Next slide. So if you see validation versus verification, so validation is the design phase, verification is the performance phase. So focus areas for validation evaluates the project plan, application to the methodology, application to the requirements of the standard. For verification, it evaluates actual historical performance and the project on the ground. Timing for validation, it occurs before or during the project implementation. It's one-time activity. Verification occurs periodically after the project is operational. So as I said, you can do it annually, biannually, or at any frequency as you may choose, or as you may have proposed in the project design document as well. Goal of validation audit is that it confirms if the project is capable of achieving its target. For verification, it confirms whether the target has been achieved or not. So validation, the key question is, are we setting the right targets? And verification, the key question is, are we measuring the results correctly, or are we achieving those targets that we had set in our registration document, which is the project design document. Next slide. So why audit matters? Carbon credit audit for carbon credit projects, which are conducted by independent third-party validation verification bodies, which are accredited by respective GHG programs. They lend credibility to the project. They are important to ensure integrity. They are also helpful in avoiding double accounting. They also enable monetization of the projects, attract investments. They ensure traceability. So these are the benefits of your project. So if you get your project audited by an independent validation verification body and the project achieves registration, and then through verification, if it goes to the stage of stage of issuance of credit, these audits actually add value in terms of providing credibility to the project, credibility to the credits. These audits ensure that the outcomes are real, transparent, measurable, and additional. Next slide, please. So I was asked by the IBA team to also focus on areas where we as a VVP have seen that most of the projects face challenges, and I think Nagaraju also briefly touched on them. I would also just like to run through that. So one of the key areas which Mansa also spoke about just before I started was additionality. So every project that aims to generate carbon credits, they have to demonstrate additionality. Additionality simply means that you have to demonstrate why do you need carbon finance for? What is the requirement of carbon finance? So there are different ways of demonstrating additionality. It also depends upon the choice of the methodology, the technology. But as I said, you have to demonstrate there are barrier analysis, investment barriers, access to finance barrier, technological barrier, whether it's a new technology, institutional barrier, or whether your project is mandated by your regulation. If it is mandated by your regulation, then in simple terms, it cannot be a carbon project. But if the compliance to that regulation is not up to a certain level, which is less than 50% in that sector, then of course you can put your project for registration under carbon project. So whether your project is a regulatory surplus or not, that needs to be demonstrated. And as I said, but for test, verified that the project would not have been financially feasible or legally required without the revenue from carbon credit. So you have to demonstrate additionality. Additionality demonstration is one of the very key requirements. Baseline formulation, it is again one of the key requirements. Baseline is a very critical requirement because this is against which you claim credit. So baseline is defined as what would have happened in the absence of the project activity. So what was the pre-project scenario? So you have to very meticulously establish the baseline scenario because the carbon credits are generated as a difference between the project scenario and the baseline scenario. So the amount of credits that your project would generate would also depend upon establishment of correct baseline scenario. Methodology alignment, confirm that the project uses an approved, up-to-date and relevant methodology from standards like VCS, VERA, Gold Standard, ICR, whichever standard you have chosen to develop your project under. Baseline updates for long-term projects, ensure that the baseline updated periodically to reflect changing circumstances. This becomes much more applicable when you're trying to renew the crediting period of your project. Project boundary and leakage management is also one of the areas which a project developer should focus on. So boundary setting, for project boundary, you should verify all the sources and sinks and reservoirs directly affected by the project are included. So whatever GHG sources and sinks are directly affected by the project shall be included inside the project boundary. Leakage quantification. Leakage is defined as emissions that are happening on account of the project but outside the project boundary. So suppose if you are using agricultural waste or agricultural crop residues for feedstock for your CBG plant, so you will have to either demonstrate that there is surplus availability of such biomass in the region, just to ensure that you're not diverting those biomass to your CBG plant, which already had some usage in the baseline scenario. So suppose they were used for, say, household energy uses, but if there is a big CBG plant coming and the procurement of such wastes happen from the field, then the households may be forced to opt for a higher carbon intensive fuel to meet their energy demand. So that could lead to leakage. So you have to demonstrate that there is no leakage happening on the account of the project. If there is any leakage happening on the account of that project, it has to be assessed and quantified. And leakage mitigation check if measures to prevent leakages are in place and effective. So as I said, measures to prevent leakages or to check is in terms of agricultural projects, you have to demonstrate that maybe there is surplus availability of biomass or feedstock in the region where you're putting up a plant. Next slide, please. Monitoring, reporting, and is one of the very critical issues when you talk about issuance of the credit. So data accuracy, ensure the quantification of GHG emission reduction removal is calculated using accurate, verifiable, and conservative methodologies. Calibration, ensure that your monitoring equipments are calibrated in accordance with either the manufacturer's specification or the national guidelines, or the frequency that you have provided in your PDD. Monitoring procedure. So you should ensure that whatever monitoring procedure you have stipulated in your registered PDD, you are actually conforming to those procedures and monitoring your parameters in accordance with those procedures set out in the PDD. Data recording and archiving. So your data shall be as per applied methodology. So whatever records you are generating, you should have those records properly recorded, archived. Ensure the safety of those records. Ensure that those records cannot be tampered with. QA/QC measures should be in place to ensure minimization of data loss due to unforeseen circumstances. Emission factor selection, ensure factors are sourced from recognized database like GHG protocol or ISO 14064 or IPCC good practices guidelines. In terms of validation, stakeholder engagement, this is now becoming a very critical part of project validation because the requirements for stakeholder engagement are constantly evolving. So now most of the standards, they require that the stakeholder consultation happens in a free, prior, and informed consent manner, so that the stakeholders are continuously engaged, and you are continuously conversing with the stakeholders to ensure that they are aware of whatever activities you are doing, and whatever, if there are positive or negative aspects of the project that are being discussed and deliberated upon by them, and their views are taken into account and addressed during the course of project implementation and operation. Project start date also is a very critical factor that the project start date shall be set in accordance with the definitions provided in the GHG program, because different GHG programs define start date very differently. So when you are starting a project, because your project would start generating credits from the date of registration or from the date your start date in case of different standards. So selecting or establishing the project start date becomes very critical. So one should look at the definitions provided in GHG standards and set the start dates in accordance with that. And then overall compliance with methodological requirements and the standards requirement or the program requirement shall be the top priority when you are developing such projects. Thank you. That's it.
Mr. Anand, that was an absolute masterclass, and you have just done something invaluable. You have opened the black box of the audit process and handed it over to the developers, in the form of a clear map of exactly what they need to get right. So thank you so much for that. And I just want to underline one thing that I believe is the single most underestimated risk in the entire carbon project lifecycle. And Mr. Amit touched on its core, the monitoring plan. The monitoring infrastructure is not a compliance burden. It is your revenue projection system. And now let me add a market reality check for all of you. Now, today, the carbon market is increasingly differentiating between the high integrity credits and the low integrity ones. And that price difference is not just about the emission themselves. It is about the documentation quality, monitoring rigor, verification strength, and the credibility of the standard and the auditor. In other words, the decisions you make today on monitoring system, data discipline, and verification readiness, this will determine where your project sits on that value spectrum. And once the audit framework is already in place, once your monitoring plan is bulletproof and your verifier relationship is established, the final strategic decision is which registration platform and standard to list on. That decision determines your buyer pool, your pricing power, and your long-term revenue trajectory. Mr. Sandeep of EBS Consultants is going to walk us through exactly that. So it is my proud privilege to now introduce Mr. Sandeep to all of you. Mr. Sandeep did his MTech from the prestigious IIT Roorkee, and he's a partner at ABS Consultants, a firm with deep expertise in GHG management, carbon market facilitation, and sustainability consulting. So he is probably going to talk from like how you can actually transform your CBG plants emission reductions into registered, certified, internationally recognized carbon assets that buyers want and will pay a premium for. That answer and the revenue it unlocks is what the next few minutes are about. So, Mr. Sandeep, the floor is yours. We'll request if you can just switch on the camera. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mansa and IBA for giving this opportunity to speak today. So I have shared my presentation. If not, then I can share my screen now. Okay, thank you very much. So we are ABS consultant, and we are consultant registering carbon credit projects, trading in EPR, trading in IREC, registration of IREC projects, and projects almost in all the technologies across all the registries. Can you go to next slide, please? So about me, in fact, I'm in fact, since my first job, I'm in the field of carbon credit, and I developed one project in my first company that was the recovery of biogas. And then during SGS, I worked as a lead auditor and technical reviewer. And the past few years, I'm working as a full-time consultant to develop carbon project. So I can say that I have completed all the phase in entire life cycle of this carbon project, and I have traded a carbon credit also. So yeah, so next slide. And about ABS consultant. So we are a consultant developing GHG projects, doing accounting and registering projects, especially in CBG portfolio right now. And we are also dealing with IREC projects registration and EPR compliance trading and monthly generation of EPR to our various clients. And we handled projects across all the technologies and across all the registries. Yeah, next slide, please. It is already told that 1 carbon credit is actually 1 ton of carbon dioxide equivalent, because this is like we can eliminate CS4 or we can eliminate any greenhouse gas emissions, but the carbon credit is measured in terms of 1 ton of carbon dioxide. That is 1 credit, but this is not still a credit. It will become credit if this is approved and registered and approved and verified at some registry. So registries have their own standard, their methodologies, and their list of auditors available at their registry. So as far as the projects, so almost all projects, if they are reducing greenhouse gas emissions, can be developed as a carbon credit project. So famous technologies are renewables, latest to this biogas CBG, and yeah, across all the. Yeah, next slide. Then these are a few eminent registries in voluntary carbon market. So there are two mechanisms. One is compliance mechanism and one is voluntary mechanisms. So compliance means if any country has given target to their industries or country itself has taken targets, so they are only mandating their industries to purchase carbon credit from certain registries which are part of the compliance. For example, United Nations, and they have made one mechanism, CDM. Now it is transformed into Article 6.4, 6.2, and that we will cover in later slides. So these are few registries like Vera. So what are the eligibility criteria to be qualified for particular registry? There are certain deadlines. There are certain requirements specified in standards. So just I'm giving one example, like in Vera, the project should be submitted a final report audited by the Vera within 2 years after the commissioning. So that is the requirement of Vera. In gold standard, it is entirely different. In gold standard, we should submit our preliminary request for preliminary review within 1 year after the purchasing order. Once we place the purchase order for the technology or from the date of major investment, our reports will be submitted within 1 year. Next slide, please. And if you see the fourth column, so we have identified which registries are eligible and made eligible by the Corsia standard. Corsia is already explained by Mr. Nagaraju. That is carbon offset reduction scheme in international aviations. That aviation industries will purchase carbon credit. So almost all the registries except few are approved by Corsia, and if project is registered, the requirement from the host country will be getting the host country approval. Then credit can be sold to Corsia if it is registered in any voluntary carbon market registered approved by the Corsia. Next slide, please. And then this is the compliance market. First one is the CDM, and this is now being obsoleted in maybe June 2026 this year, and it is transformed into Article 6.4. This is part of Paris Convention, and many countries have already signed this agreement, including India, that countries will reduce their emission reductions. So now countries itself are developing their own registries to meet their NDCs. Means there should have some certified carbon credits so that it can be claimed to meet their NDCs. And so this is CCTS for India. Next slide, please. And so the crediting period is very important. This is just like for how long we can claim carbon credit from particular project. So for example, if we have CBG projects, so almost all the registries have made CBG technology eligible for there. If some is not, then it is already indicated. There are total 18 registries working globally in voluntary carbon market. And so few have identified CBG projects, and the length of crediting period is defined. So in Vera, it is earlier it was maximum 21 years, 7 years, and renewal twice. Now they have, as per their new standard, it has reduced to 15 years maximum, and 5 years one, and renewal twice. And the CBG is coming in non-FLU project, so I'm talking about this non-FLU project only. And this is all written in under their standard, respective registries. Then gold standard, similar 5 years into 3, total 15 years, GCC Global Carbon Council. And our CCTS, Indian Carbon Market, also following the same. Next slide, please. So now as this CCTS is under discussion, and we have attended many forum. So this is important to understand what is compliance mechanism and what is offset mechanism. So in this box, so a few sectors have been given mandatory targets by Ministry of Power Bureau of Energy Efficiency. So they will report their data, and they have already submitted their baseline data, and basis on their baseline data, target has been assigned to those particular sectors. Sectors means designated consumers. They have defined certain limit of energy consumption, and as a rule of thumb, big consumers, the limit already specified. The big consumers have been given mandatory targets like cement, power plant, fertilizer, chemical, pulp and paper, textiles. They are sectors. So they will achieve their targets, and if they have overachieved, then they will be issued carbon credit, CCC, in terms of Indian terminology. Other than the DCs, if any industries is doing any project in GHG reduction, they can register their project in offset mechanism. Under compliance mechanism, there is no need to prove the additionality. Whatever initiative is taken inside their factory to optimize specific energy consumption, that will be counted. And if they have overachieved, they will be issued carbon credits, equivalent numbers. But for offset mechanism, they should have follow some methodology, tools, and standard, and they will have to demonstrate that this project deserve carbon credit. That is the additionality. And there will be defined a crediting period also. But in compliance mechanism, that is actually coming almost every year. Every 2 years, the new targets is given basis on the past performance. So thank you. To next slide. This is the steps to be followed in Indian carbon market. So it is almost similar to all. First, we have to open our account and submit a develop project design document, and then hire a auditor. Auditor will validate this, and the project registration will be done by ICM administrator. Then monitoring, then verification and credit issuance. Next slide. This is the process to be followed during the GCC, Global Carbon Council projects. And it also means follow the same. First, we need to submit our PD for initial stakeholder consultation, then hire a BBB, then audit by the BBB, submitting final document review by the GCC, and then it is approved by their steering committees, and it is displayed to as a approved at their registry. And then next slide, the verification after the registration. So there is two important approaches. Few registries are allowing first issuance along with the registration, like Vera. A project is already commissioned and they have started operation, and during the time of registration, if biogas is already generated, so equivalent to that biogas CBG, we can claim carbon credits along with the registration. So registration and first issuance can be clubbed together. But in few registries like GCC or maybe CDM, maybe Article 6.4 or maybe and in GCC also, first is registration. Then after registration, our monitoring period will be started. Okay, now next slide, please. And these are fee structures. So ICM for domestic registry, account opening, account maintenance, project registration at different stages, post registration changes, and issuance fees. Yeah, next slide. And for Vera, it is account opening one time, annual maintenance account $750 USD. This is in USD. Then registration, then verification and issuance. And if methodology is not available, then we can suggest a methodology also. The methodology development fees is also there. Then Global Carbon Council. So the fees are different. Next slide, please. As recently India has signed this bilateral agreement with Japan on 7th August 2025. So this is the process to be followed. The good thing is that the CBG project is selected by this mechanism. CBG projects will be chosen by JCM agencies who are ratified by the JCM. They will select the project in India, and then we will be eligible to develop that project for carbon credit under JCM. Yeah, so this is the process. Next slide, please. So this is project idea note, methodology development. This is under development. CBG methodology is under development by JCM consultant. Then project document registration, and so same like others. And next slide, please. So this is the whole process to be followed during the JCM. And yeah, next slide, please. So from this whole presentation discussion, the key takeaways are like expenses are very less, and as Nagaraju has already explained that current minimum price we can consider 5 USD, and the whole charges means expenses during registration, hiring auditor, consultant, everything, it is approximately 20,000 to 25,000 USD, along with a few registries allow, so along with first issuance. And the revenue from if 10 TPD may in the tune of 150,000 USD. So it is 1.5 lakhs of USD. So it is like 5-6 times more we can earn. and this is at the bare minimum price. This can go up to 10 to 20 times you expend and you get back from selling the carbon credits. It is very good decision to be taken now, because if this is not done today, the opportunity will be lost forever, because every registries have their certain defined timeline. So as I said, in Vera it is 2 years, in GS it is 1 year, in GCC it is 1 year. So this is the right time to take decision. And government is also supporting CBG like anything, and they have allowed CBG projects for Article 6.4 and 6.2. The notification already there, I will share, and JCM is also supporting. Next slide,
Mr.
please.
Sandeep,
Yes.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. So we can probably, keep in lieu the timeline, and we can just start towards wrapping.
Two slide mode. Yeah, 2 slide mode. This is the
Perfect,
notification.
perfect.
This is the notification from Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, Forest and Climate Change. This notification. Next slide. So these are the sectors in identified where host country approval will be provided. So as we discussed several times that if it is going for compliance market like Corsia, so host country approval will be required. So in at a fifth number, this compressed biogas is mentioned. So these projects will easily get host country approval, and we can sell our credits to compliance purpose in Corsia, irrespective of the registries, if that registry is approved by the Corsia. 6.2, 6.4 is definitely already. CCTS will definitely eligible, and this Corsia also will also eligible if registry is even voluntary carbon market also. Yeah, this is all about from me for today. Thank you. You are on mute. Mansa, you are on mute.
Thank you. So, Mr. Sandeep, that was actually exceptional. You have just connected the final link to the chain from measured emission reductions to certified tradable carbon credits on the platform that buyers trust and pay a premium for. So thank you so much for that. And ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the final segment of today's session, it is truly my pleasure to introduce to all of you our special guest speaker. We are honored to have with us Mr. Guðmundur. He's the founder and CEO of the International Carbon Registry, a globally recognized greenhouse gas program and registry platform headquartered in Iceland. Mr. Guðmundur established ICR with a clear vision to scale meaningful climate action through transparency, integrity, and credibility in the carbon market. Today, he will share his insights from the registry perspective, offering valuable clarity on how robust carbon frameworks can support emerging sectors like CBG. So, Mr. Guðmundur, the floor is all yours.
Thank you for the introduction, really honored to be a part of this session today. And it has been a really pleasure to listening to all the esteemed panelists here talking about their experience, and often talk about India as the pioneer in establishing carbon markets at the national level, and utilizing carbon financing and scaling up impactful solutions. So before I start, do you have my slides? Yeah. So before I start, because the talk of the town has been additionality and baseline. So as I've been watching India since I started my journey in climate action and carbon registry operation, I've been really impressed by what has happened in the last, but just since carbon markets were established under the Kyoto Protocol, and it brings out like the topic of additionality, which has been addressed here by most of the panelists. So, like renewable energy has been probably the most impactful and popular methodology or climate solution in addressing climate change globally, and many projects have been developed in India, and that brings the topic of the discussion today. But I'm calling in from Iceland, and we were so lucky, and it sets into perspective the situation in the Middle East right now with rising oil prices. What we were forced to do here in Iceland in the 20th century, we needed to act because of the oil crisis, especially during the 1970s, and there we went from relying on coal and oil in our energy production and became completely renewable in our energy production. So coming to additionality, so as of now, we are completely relying on renewable energy. So a renewable energy project would never be considered as a carbon project in Iceland because we are renewable right now. The common practice is renewable energy, both for electricity and heating. And coming to the baseline is a completely renewable grid. So coming to the ICR, so we have been listening to the perspective of the developers and the auditors here. So what is the registry as such? So a greenhouse ICR is a greenhouse gas program and a registry platform. But our greenhouse gas program defines the rules and the methodology for generating carbon credits. It ensures the integrity through the validation and verification. It tracks then at the registry level the issuance, transfers, and retirements of the carbon credits. So it brings out the rule sets, the procedures that projects, the VVPs, project developers need to follow. And then it brings out the software engine, so to speak, in both the transparency of the projects and the audit trail and transparency and traceability of the actual carbon credits that are issued. Next slide, please. So ICR is heavily relying on international standards. And there we look at ISO standards as the core of our criteria or requirement set or rules, which ISO standards are considered best practice. So we should do the same in climate action. So we use ISO 14062 as the project standard, ISO 14064-3 relating to the validation verification, and then 65 for the accreditation competence of the VVPs. But it's not sufficient to operate in carbon markets. We need to follow the carbon markets expectations and rules. And there we rely on the foundation that was built under the CDM and now is becoming the PACM. The PACM. So a project that is aligned with ISO 14062 is halfway there, but not completely. So I want to put it into perspective, the layers. I often talk about the carbon process, probably the best documented and most extensively documented industry in the space, as well as audited. So a carbon project needs to follow a methodology, an approved methodology. That project is subject to validation and verification, as Amit went through. The BVP needs to be accredited according to accreditation standard, which brings out the ISO standards, which is the accreditation and validation verification standards. That is then governed by the program, such as ICR, CERCAR, BONO, VERA, Gold Standard, and then the integrity is built out of frameworks such as ICROA, CORSIA, ICVCM, and then more recently we see that voluntary carbon projects are becoming recognized under compliance schemes under Article 6.2 by the DNS of countries, and less known is the insurance and ratings that will not cover. But on the left side you see that these are the rules, and on the right side that translates into the project that are listed on the registry, and then results in the sources of carbon credits that are traded or transacted on the registry and monetized. Next slide, please. So I won't go into any more details about the project cycle, other than that, like from the perspective of ICR, it starts with creating an account under our system, doing the KYC, the KYB of our clients. Then it's the development, as Nagaraju went through, Amit went through the validation verification. Then it's the ICR admins that do the quality assurance and the completeness and consistency review, and until the credits are then issued, the process are registered, and issues and transactions with credits are done. Next slide, please. So we have already captured this, where does the impacts come from? It's from methane mitigation, and then the renewable energy transition, and then circular economy and agriculture. Next slide, please. Again, we have went through this before. It's the methane avoidance, fossil fuel displacement, and then to support the project, we have the methodologies, and often describe methodologies as recipes for a cake. When you follow a methodology, it results in that you should be adhering to the program rules, and results in that you would become registered as a carbon project. As with the cake, you follow a cake recipe, you will result in having a cake. If you don't have a methodology, then programs have the means of approving new methodologies. Next slide, please. So these are just the requirements, the principles that the programs are following. Is the core is the additionality based on boundary quantification and monitoring, and then it's like the stakeholder consultation, it's the reporting, addressing double counting, SDGs, etc., etc. So next slide, please. So on the monetization, so this has been covered somewhat, but what drives the value of the credits? It's of course the recognition of the underlying registry that's being used, ICR Vera, Gold Standard, GCCs or Carbon, etc. Then it's the endorsement that the program have. Are they endorsed by Kosher, ICDCM, ICROA, or endorsed by any governmental institutions? Then it's the methodology, integrity of the methodology, and the documentation of the underlying project, applying that methodology, the co-benefits, that's the Gs that the project brings, and it's the benefits and sectors that are in question. So, of course, methane avoidance is a high impact sector. It's result in a high value. And then it's about how the project is monetized. It's the spot sales. It's that post registration, post issuance that you are selling the credits at spot sales. Then it's a forward and off-take agreements that the projects are doing with any client. Compliance and Article 6 frameworks, Kosher, and government-to-government monetization. And then more in the recent years, we have seen that like many companies are looking at insetting, so that projects are not really transacted as offsets, but within supply chains. But it's important that to consider that, like before deciding on implement the carbon project, make sure that you have considered how you're going to monetize the credits. Is it through the spot sales of forward contracts, or are you going to secure an ICMO or corresponding LOA? Next slide, please. So that concludes my my short presentation. So if you want to learn more, you can go to carbonregistry.com and learn more about how we can support your journey. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Mr. Guðmundur, and that was absolutely incredible. Especially, the point that you mentioned that your choice of registration platform is not an administrative formality. It is a strategic revenue decision that will be that will actually compound for the entire duration of your project's crediting period, which can be 10 years or more. And I would like to add on that with India's CCTS offset mechanism now live with CBG as one of the 8 approved methodologies, a properly registered CBG project in India has access to domestic compliance buyers through the ICM and international voluntary market buyers simultaneously. That dual market access is a structural advantage that very few project types anywhere in the world enjoy right now. So please use it. And before our formal vote of thanks, let's just connect a few dots. So what we have witnessed today is the 4 pillars of CBG carbon monetization ecosystem taking shape just before our eyes. Mr. Nagaraju built the first pillar, which was the financial architecture. Carbon finance, when structured against a credible baseline and supported by a strong additionality case, creates a revenue layer that can significantly strengthen CBG project economics. With the Indian CBG sector evolving into a multi-billion-dollar opportunity and policy support continuing to expand demand, the revenue, the energy revenue in particular, is being established. So carbon credits then become the differentiator, the layer that separates viable projects from truly investable ones. Then Mr. Amit built the second structural pillar, audit integrity. Carbon credits are not claimed, actually. They are earned through rigorous independent verification. And increasingly, the market is differentiating between high integrity and low integrity ones, the credits, yeah? So that difference is not about the emission themselves. It is about monitoring, discipline, documentation, quality verification, rigor, and of course, institutional credibility. Your monitoring plan, your data systems, your verifier engagement. These are not compliance costs. These are your revenue architecture. Then Mr. Sandeep established the third pillar, the registration ecosystem. Whether you register your global standards such as the International Carbon Registry, VERA VCS, or within India's emerging carbon market framework, that choice depends your market access, buyer profile, and potential price realization. As the global carbon market continues to grow, your registration decision today becomes a long-term revenue decision. Then Mr. Guðmundur brought forward the fourth critical pillar, registry integrity and transparency. Through platforms like the International Carbon Registry, he emphasized that credibility, traceability, robust verification are what ultimately built buyer trust in carbon credits. So in a market increasingly focused on quality over volume, the strength of the registry determines not just acceptance, but long-term value. Simply put, integrity is no longer optional. It is the market itself. So that is the value the carbon market is increasingly beginning to recognize. And here is my personal message to every CBG plant developer in the room. The journey from documentation to first credit issuance typically takes about 12 to 18 months, which means if you start today, your first credit issuance can be, after 12 to 18 months. So timing is not just strategy, it is mathematics. So I would strongly encourage you begin your pre-feasibility and carbon readiness assessment today. Understand your eligibility, anticipate your challenges, and position your project not just for compliance, but for value creation. Now, on behalf of the Indian Biogas Association, my deepest and most sincere gratitude to all our outstanding panelists. Each one of you gave generously of your expertise, your time, and your practical wisdom today. And I know our audience will be returning to the recordings many times in the weeks ahead. My warmest regards to Colonel Rohit for the electrifying, preview of the 5th BBB. I would request my team members as well to just display the contact details for the same. And my special thanks to Dr. Shukla for gracing us with your presence and setting the tone with authority and vision that only you can bring. And above all, Thank you so much, my amazing IBA team, for working tirelessly towards making this webinar a huge success. And special thanks to every single participant who joined us today. You are the ecosystem that will build this future. Your presence, your questions, your engagement, that is what gives these events their meaning. And thank you all once again. This has been the IBA's webinar on carbon monetization opportunities in the bioenergy sector. The journey ahead, which is bright, which is green. And after today, I'm more than confident that it is in very capable hands. Until we meet again in this virtual space or in person, stay bold, stay curious, and keep building. Namaskar.